The eighth contemplation is contemplation of the image of Amida. The Buddha said to Ananda and Vaidehi, "After you have seen this, next visualize the Buddha." Why the Buddha? Because Buddhas Tathagatas have cosmic bodies and so enter into the meditating mind of its sentient being. For this reason, when you contemplate a Buddha, that mind itself takes the form of his 32 physical characteristics and 80 secondary marks. Your mind produces the Buddha's image and is itself the Buddha. The ocean of perfectly and universally enlightened Buddhas thus arises in the meditating mind. For this reason, you should single-mindedly concentrate and deeply contemplate the Buddha, Tathagata, Arhat, and perfectly enlightened one. When you visualize the Buddha, as you should first form his image. Whether your eyes are open or closed, perceive a jeweled image of him, who is the color of gold from the Jambu River, sitting on that flower throne. When you have perceived a seated image of the Buddha, your mind's eye will open and you will clearly and distinctly see the seven jeweled glorious objects of the land of utmost bliss, including the seven jeweled ground, the jeweled ponds, the rows of jeweled trees, covered with heavenly jeweled curtains and jeweled nets spreading over the sky. Perceive this as clearly and distinctly as if you were seeing an object in the palm of your hand. After you have seen this image, visualize on the Buddha's left a large lotus flower, which is exactly the same as the one described above, and then another large one on his right. Visualize an image of the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara sitting on the flower seat on his left, sending forth a golden light, just like the Buddha image described above. And then the image of the Bodhisattva Mahastama Prapta sitting on the flower seat on his right. When you have attained this vision, you will see these images of the Buddha and Bodhisattvas sending forth golden rays which illuminate the jeweled trees. Under each tree there are also three lotus flowers with images of a Buddha and two Bodhisattvas sitting on them, so that the land is completely filled with such images. When you have attained this vision, you will perceive the streams, rays of light, jeweled trees, ducks, geese, male and female mandarin ducks, and so forth, all expounding the wonderful Dharma. Whether in meditation or not, you will always hear the wonderful Dharma. When you rise from meditation, you should remember what you have heard, not forget it, and confirm it with the sutras. If it does not agree with the sutras, it should be called an illusion. But if it does agree, it is called the attainment of the general perception of the land of utmost bliss. This is the visualizing of the Buddha image and is known as the eighth contemplation. If you have attained this, the evil karma which you have committed during innumerable kotis of kalpas of samsara will be extinguished, and while in this life, you will attain the Buddha recollection samadhi. To practice in this way is called the correct contemplation, and to practice otherwise is incorrect. The ninth contemplation is contemplation of Amida himself. The Buddha said to Ananda and Vaidehi, "After you have succeeded in seeing these images, next envision the physical characteristics and the light of Amitayus. Ananda, you should realize that his body is as glorious as 1,000,000,000 kotis of nuggets of gold from the Jambu River of the Yama heaven, and that his height is 600,000 kotis of Nayutas of Yojanas, multiplied by the number of the sands of the Ganges. The white tuft of hair curling to the right between his eyebrows is 5 times as big as Mount Sumeru. His eyes are clear and as broad as the four great oceans. Their blue irises and whites are distinct. From the pores of his body issues forth a flood of light as magnificent as Mount Sumeru. His aureole is as broad as 100 kotis of universes, each containing 1,000 million worlds. In this aureole reside transformed Buddhas numbering as many as 1,000,000 kotis of Nayutas multiplied by the number of the sons of the Ganges. Each Buddha is attended by innumerable and uncountable transformed bodhisattvas. The Buddha Amitabha possesses 84,000 physical characteristics, each having 84,000 secondary marks of excellence. Each secondary mark emits 84,000 rays of light, each light shining universally upon the land of the 10 quarters, embracing and not forsaking those who are mindful of the Buddha. It is impossible to describe in detail these rays of light, physical characteristics and marks, transformed Buddhas, and so forth, but you can see them clearly with your mind's eye through contemplation. Those who have envisioned them see all the Buddhas of the 10 quarters. Because they see the Buddhas, this is called the Buddha recollection samadhi. To attain this contemplation is to perceive the bodies of all the Buddhas. By perceiving these, one also realizes the Buddha's mind. The Buddha's mind is great compassion. It embraces sentient beings with unconditional benevolence. Those who have practiced this contemplation will, after death, be born in the presence of the Buddhas and realize the insight into the non-arising of all dharmas. For this reason, the wise should concentrate their thoughts and visualize Amitabha. In contemplating him, begin with one of his physical characteristics. Visualize only the white tuft of hair between his eyebrows until you see it quite clearly and distinctly. When you visualize it, the 84,000 physical characteristics will spontaneously become manifest. When you see Amitabha, you will also see innumerable Buddhas of the 10 quarters. Having visualized these innumerable Buddhas, you will receive from each the prediction of your future Buddhahood. This is the general perception of all the physical characteristics of the Buddha and is known as the ninth contemplation. To practice in this way is called the correct contemplation, and to practice otherwise is incorrect.